we just unpacked the Pandora's box of impact. What the heck is impact? What did we learn today?
We had a couple of different definitions of impact, actually, which I took my notes because this is what I'm good at.
Circuitous note taking.
We got there. I mean, our guest host, Caroline, that joined us, her definition of impact is a world that works for everyone. And very related was Jonathan's definition of impact, which is social leaps, radical social leaps. And I think we have to take the radical social leaps to get to a world that works for everyone.
Ooh,
So
dang, bridging those gaps. I love it. It's
those
amazing.
it was beautiful. Yeah. And so empowering. I mean, to me, one thing that stood out from this conversation was how empowering it really is. That it isn't necessary to start with a huge endowment of money or feel like, you have to start with the UN or you have to start with some international organization. You can start in your town or in your
Yeah.
neighborhood or
Yeah.
your suburban development.
It gave me a lot because I am definitely one of those people, if anyone knows tuning in, that likes to go right to the future and just create from the top. By, just like, I'm going to force feed this new change to the model. And it's like, that's sometimes is not the best way to do it. So
Well,
I'm looking in my
sure.
own life from this conversation about how I might just be able to just jump into my own community here in Amsterdam and start some tea and toast, which was a topic that came up, and you'll want to tune in to hear more about that and how that transforms life.
Yeah, we came up with a new saying today, the power of pies.
Power
And
of pies, man. I mean, just go bake a good pie, and
make a great pie.
the ingredients are all there, which is also part of the conversation.
That's right. And you cook with what you have, right? It
Cook with
doesn't
what you have.
not take much to make tea and toast for your community, or to
Yeah,
make a pie even doesn't really take a whole lot. And
I
the
would say
results
what's.
can be,
Go ahead, Beth.
I was
Sorry.
just gonna say the results can be so much more
Yeah.
exponentially, just a couple of great pies.
What's intriguing to me about this conversation today is because we are coming to the end of the season 3, and um, how much all of the topics we've already discovered and talked about, food and self-care and all of these ideas were woven into this episode. It
Yeah.
was kind of the
Sure.
capstone or the keystone, if you will, to use some of the things that we know about.
Mhm. Sure.
If you're a Mason, any
Yeah.
Freemasons out there, the keystone is is
The
the
keystone
stone that
holds it all together, right?
holds it
So
together. So this episode is the keystone that would hold it all together. And I'd say that's why you'd want to tune in, because you're going to get a little bit of every topic from our show. And, it was definitely a cry, laughs after school special like we set up in the beginning.
there was a little
I
bit.
was getting emotional, which I don't
Me
usually do.
too.
Yeah.
I kept thinking, I cannot just cry. I can't just, I can't just sit here and cry. But I was feeling emotional because, there were several different times that came up for me. But Jonathan shared several stories of times in his life when he has been working in the cracks in the world, right? In places where they have recently experienced crisis of some kind, and how he learned such impactful things, from people who I call regular people, just like totally regular people, like this.
Can we change that definition? What is that?
Yeah, you can change it, and that's what this conversation did. Jonathan uh, really honored people who were not CEOs of companies or political leaders or something. He honored the women in Ukraine who just pulled together and sort of lifted the community up out of despair and despondency. And they
Women are the front
shone a
lines.
light. Yeah, women
Women,
are the new
women,
front line.
women are the new front line. Oh my gosh,
We liked that a lot.
we endured that for sure.
And I loved his concept of a civic entrepreneur. He discussed this new profession that I think Jonathan just invented. And I think
It might have happened on the show today.
we need to get one on like in every community in the world, a civic entrepreneur who
if
um,
if you're applying
activates.
for a if you're applying for a job out there, there's a drop down on the application that says civic entrepreneur. You are in the wrong in the
Yeah,
wrong
yeah.
field.
And
Um,
I'm not exactly sure, who's the boss on that situation either. But um, yeah, we can change what this conversation between all four of us gave to me is a possibility that we can change these systems these really challenged, outdated systems that don't work for us, one community at a time
And
is possible.
exactly that. One community at a time, and also locally. We spoke a lot about local and global,
Mhm.
the dissonance between that and that we all feel, because we do see global issues, in the hands of the elites and the hands of people who have power, and yet when it does boil down to the simple changes and tipping the needle, to give more of like Chris Castro, what he was saying too is he says the needle is actually tipping, and it comes from all the local work that he was doing as well. So there is a local movement, a placemaking, the sense of place and happening right now and unfolding. And I think we are living in a really incredible time to recognize that the global issues are serious. We all feel them. We want to change we want to take care of nature. We want to take care of each other. We want to make sure people aren't being, imprisoned or enslaved. And we want everyone to have happy lives. And yet we're struggling within our own countries with civil, unrest and possibly civil war in some cases, which is definitely still going on in many countries in Africa as well, where Jonathan works. And we're seeing that the simple human beings are the ones that are tipping that needle.
Yeah. Yep. And I feel like it is percolating upwards, which really is not a thing. I just made that up. That's not sciencey.
You make a lot of words up on the show. I
Well,
mean, there
percolating
was
is a
so
real
many,
word, but normally
it,
it's,
it
gravity,
percolates
right?
down. I know, I know.
Well, now
There
we're
was,
percolating up. I feel like
let's
these,
just make new words up. Let's do it.
hey, look,
Let's get them on the
Shakespeare did it.
SAT.
Shakespeare did it. Why not me? Okay.
I mean, good. We can do it. It's all good. It's right here, right now on this podcast.
It does though. I feel like these efforts around the world are percolating up. The creation of the Great Green Wall. It starts with just like, a handful of people in a community who are okay to make these um, little sort of half moon shaped beds where they're going to plant trees or greenery or whatever.
Right.
And but it spreads. And that's what this kind of change is doing right
And
now.
you're going to hear a ton of examples on this episode of those types of initiatives and actions and being that can happen in order to create about impact, to bring about impact. And so stay tuned for this episode with
Join us.
Jonathan Robinson and Engineering Impact.